Start streaming, and here we go. All right, we should be live.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we're live. Something says we're live. I think we're going live here. All right.
Okay, good. Oh yes, I see it. It just showed
rebooted. Up. All right, we've got the chats coming in. We've got Shireen here. How you doing, Shireen?
I'm doing good. I'm sorry. I just got on. I see that we are now officially streaming on Facebook and probably elsewhere. So this is good. Hi, people. How's it going?
All right. So yeah, if you're tuning in now, go ahead, just drop a comment, smiley face, whatever. It just helps us know that we're getting, we're having everybody, we're reaching everybody. There should be Facebookers, there should be YouTubers and Twitchers. Hey, by the way, if you haven't gone on Twitch, like I would love to rock Twitch, if I could say it.
All right, let's do it.
No, it would just be great to like get good at that, you know. But so anyone wants to like join our Twitch, we have a link in the description of the show. I hope for some people. I think I forgot to put it for the Facebook folks. Sorry, Facebook folks. All right, let's get going on our show. What's our show topic? It was Headstrong or Heartstrong, which is more effective, right? Okay. Yeah. So Shireen, why don't you do a quick one, because we have so little time. The quick, like, you know, somebody bugged you, and what was your feeling about that?
Well, I had some like dramatic business entrepreneurial disruptions, if you will, come up this week. I cried at a business meeting. Not the cutest look I've ever had in my life. I'm not gonna lie. But it actually brought up some old stuff, because that night after the meeting, I went to couples therapy with my very cute husband, and she, for the first time in all of our sessions, asked me about my childhood. And it occurred to me that like I have an issue. I take issue with like being in productive mode or being in go mode and being all task oriented and having zero sort of heart connection. Like it actually just is like a painful experience for me. So it just has become this thing for the last week that I've been obsessing over. I've been watching videos by gurus on empathy and just like what this means, because to some degree, there's a part of me that goes like, does this mean I'm not going to be the successful person in business because I'm not sharky and cutthroaty and all that kind of stuff? So that's really what's coming up for me, Garrett. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that's a great question that everybody, you know, us and everyone in the audience probably needs to answer for themselves. Is like, how do you want to be successful? And it's become very clear that there are sort of two polarities of success. If we look at the titans of industry, especially in tech, and we're talking about like Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Larry Ellison, those type of people, even like the founder of Starbucks, all of them have been described as horrendously abrasive, like just total assholes to their subordinates. And that's when the pressure's on them. They're not always assholes, but when they're trying to get shit done, they will just cut you a new one. If you even like veer a tiny bit from their vision of what needs to happen. And, you know, many describe this type of person as far along the autistic spectrum. So they're on the spectrum, right? Yeah. And autism is what? Autism is basically that you're very good at thinking clearly about things, but not very good at connecting to your relationships, the heart-to-heart, the emotional side of human relationships. And so, you know, we can look at that. You're a very heartfelt person, and when someone comes at you as like high functioning and just like, let's just get the job done. I mean, if you think about like what a tyrant you have to be to make coffee as perfect as it is, and a restaurant run as smoothly as it does at Starbucks. Like you have to really be like a fascist, like as a Nazi, like Hitler. Like you have to, you know, it's like make the trains run on time.
Right.
And like Hitler, you know, Hitler's another great example of somebody who was just like he was fucking Hitler, but he made Germany like extremely successful. It's because there was this like heartless conviction that that's how things need to be. So if you don't like that, you probably don't want to work in tech too much, because I think that, you don't want to be a tech entrepreneur, because I think tech entrepreneurs tend to have to think really hard about things, and that mode of thinking really hard, you experienced the Garrett Schmerett. We have, I mean, you know, even Ronnie today, like Ronnie comes on, it's like, this is a new guy who's helping us out with our podcast or live stream or whatever the hell this is called. And I don't even say hi to him. I'm just like, sorry, I'm just cussing at the computers. That's all I'm doing. Because I was in Schmerett mode. I was in the...
That's right.
Make the trains run.
Psycho Garrett on the loose. Everybody, reel him in. By the way, you guys, okay, so in case you don't know, we have Garrett John Laporta, we have Shirini Thor, and we have the amazing Ronnie Jr. with us. Hello, peeps. Ronnie, say hi.
What's up, Shireen? Garrett. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. He wasn't like in go mode like he was a dick. I know it sounded like he was trying to be that way. It's just there was a lot of stuff that had to be done, and we were all kind of like in fast mode. In fact, you guys asked me a question or two, and I was worried more about like how I looked and how my hair looked. So I also was kind of throwing it back to you. So it makes
all of us, we're like full-blown narcissists.
Yeah, because Garrett's got the good hair and the good lighting, and then I was looking over here like a mongrel. I just thought it was fair to the
as long as the comments work. All right. So listen, if you have any commentary on this show, it's your lucky day, because we got Ronnie who will literally read your comment for you and interrupt us if it's a salient message that should be introduced at that moment. So that's great, because we've had trouble with our comments before. So back to our story, Headstrong or Heartstrong, or Heartfelt. I almost want to say that, Headstrong or Heartfelt. So I think, like, you know, if you are a tech entrepreneur and you are just driving a tech vision, which means wrestling with the fundamentals of physics and logic to get your product to work and to get it in the hands of people, being a sociopathic, somewhat autistic freak of nature who doesn't have feelings can actually be really effective. Whereas if you want to be a life coach, you want to be someone who is loved and adored by your subordinates or your audience, then you really need to be heartstrong and heartfelt.
So it sounds like you're saying I am in the right lane. Because, I mean, like, coaching is what I do. I also love connecting in this form. Like, I like hosting, you know? Like, I like to, like, connect with Garrett on this forum. And, like, I might do a radio show with a comedian buddy. Like, that'll be fun. So connecting is, like, my jam. It's like, I'm like, last week we literally live streamed all about connection. Like, gave everybody, like, a connection challenge. This is why I was like, we kind of need a continuation of that conversation, because I'm just starting to realize, whether I like it or not, whether I want to be crazy successful or not, this is who I am, and this is how I'm wired and how I operate. So it's like, I kind of just need to be okay with it and surrender to it, you know?
And I'm seeing here people saying life is a contact sport, because even though I changed the title in the little doohickey that was, I forgot to hit save.
I was wondering.
It's just like, this is why tech requires you to be like a psycho, because there's just so many little things that can go wrong. So my apologies to everyone on Facebook. The real title to this show is Headstrong or Heartstrong, which is more effective. But I forgot to hit save on the Facebook thing, because the YouTube thing doesn't let you hit save, and whatever. Anyway,
it's okay. Garrett Schmerett, leave. You are not invited to my live stream, Schmerett. Get off. Okay. No, I need Garrett the Enlightened back, please.
All right.
Yeah, there you go. You have that lighting behind you. I mean, it just makes you look like, you know, there's angelic presence happening.
Oh, there is an angelic presence. I'm ignoring it.
Oh, God.
It's there, but I won't listen. Okay, I'll try to tune in. We have like 15 minutes left to this show, so I will. I'll try to tune into a higher calling. Okay, so here's what the angels want us to talk about. You come into this life, and the soul resides in your heart, And the soul has things that your soul wants to learn. And those lessons tend to be soulful / emotional things you learn. So it's like your emotions and your spirit and your soul and your heart are all like very deeply connected. Your brain, on the other hand, is like this great computer that can really figure shit out for you. But the problem is if your brain is too smart, your brain will do things to avoid suffering that could cause your heart and soul to evolve. So if you imagine a child who is so smart they never have to experience heartbreak or loss or shame or any of those hard emotions because they always figure out a way to manipulate their way out of the situations that would cause them to experience that pain. So that's what the brain is good at, especially very smart brains, especially sort of autistic spectrum, high IQ brains. You'll find people with high IQs tend to have a hard time really communing with other people, really sort of letting down their guard, letting down their intellect, and just being human. And often they're emotionally stunted because they use their IQ, their intellect, to avoid difficult emotional situations. And so if you want to if you want to live the life to the fullest, what you need to do is be willing to experience a great deal of emotional trauma, which is where your soul is going to lead you. Like your soul's purpose is to discover. It's like there's this thing. It's like this lesson. So your heart, and then your soul's inside your heart, and then inside your soul is like this lesson, and that lesson like calls to your heart and soul, like go this way. And even though, and a lot of times going that way will cause you pain and suffering and trauma and drama and all kinds of like really fucked up situations, and yet those situations are like perfect to help you evolve, to help you grow a stronger heart, a wiser soul. And so like that's the hero's journey. But there is in every hero's journey the refusal of the call. That's the intellect going, whoa. I'm not going down that way. I'm not going down that path because I know I calculated it out and there's a high probability that I'm going to suffer if I go down that path. So then the brain goes, no, I don't want to suffer. And the brain will send you on another path that's designed to avoid any kind of suffering or growth or change, at least the change that is the deep soulful kind of change, which generally requires a whole lot of surrender. So that is the conundrum in life, is whether you just really develop the brainiac intellect tendency to get what you want or get what you think you want at the expense of your soul's journey, or to surrender to the wild and crazy journey that your soul, heart and soul would take you on if you weren't overthinking everything. There is a great, right before Shireen, you jump in, there's a great meme video that I will try to find and link to somewhere around here of this kid. It shows like, this is what overthinking is, this kid holding onto a rope in this river, and like they're practically drowning and they're freaking the fuck out and they're practically drowning and they're going, ah! And then the adult comes in and shows them that they're in basically a foot of water or 2 feet of water and that they can stand up. And that's what overthinking is. Like when you think, you start getting afraid of the things that actually you're strong enough to stand in. Your heart and soul are strong enough to stand in that spot.
My God, that was...
So how do you...
That was great.
How do you turn your mind off in that type of situation, though? Like, I have trouble sleeping, and I don't want to think of myself as an intellect, as the things you were saying, but I do know that my mind is cloudy, and I just won't be able to go to sleep because I'm overthinking all of these things. Good, but also then comes in the bad. And then before I know it, it's 3 a.m, Garrett, and it's going to ruin my next day. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I tend to use whiskey for that.
Case closed.
It'll shut off those brain cells pretty good. I can't say that I found the answer to that. I suffer from the same thing, and honestly, I do tend to use whiskey for that. Like if I wake up at 1 or 2 a.m. And I started going into that anxiety spiral. I'm like, you know what? Nightcap. That's what people used to do. Like, I think, back in the, 100, 200 years ago, like people would wake up in the middle of the night. Like that was just very common. And they would have a nightcap, which like would help them get back to bed. Now, am I advocating becoming an alcoholic to handle your anxiety? Yes. No, I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I don't know. I haven't found a better solution besides like Advil PM, which I actually really don't like the feeling. I actually prefer the feeling I have waking up having had a few drinks than having had Advil PM. I actually feel cloudier with the Advil PM. But yeah, it's like turning off your brain in the middle of the night is really hard to do. I do have some brainwave CDs that I've developed. That takes discipline, and they've worked really well for people. Like I have this binaural brainwave, psychoactive sound brainwave entrainment stuff that we developed. It's at Wayseers.org if you want to check it out. And it is solved insomnia for many, many people. I'll get emails all the time of people like, my father, I bought these brainwave CDs to meditate, but my father tried it, and for the first time in years, he was able to sleep through the night or go back to sleep at 2 a.m. So those things work. The only thing about that is it's not as fun as, hitting a couple glasses of whiskey.
I totally agree. So I gotta jump in here though. Ronnie, I just texted you a link to something I use when I wake up in the middle of the night. But I gotta jump in here because Garrett, you just said some really good things. Like, because honestly, I know I'm bringing this up and this is what's been on my mind, but legit, I'm honestly struggling because when I realized me crying at the business meeting among a bunch of beautiful, amazing, powerful alpha females, and then realizing I was raised among beautiful, amazing alpha females and felt a lot of pain in that setting, like it was just kind of weird. Like I feel like it was like almost like a big like rip the Band-Aid off. Like that would explain why I was maybe overly emotional, like more emotional than I thought I would be for what happened. And that would also explain why I felt sort of like disrupted for the rest of the weekend. Like, whoa, that was a lot. I just need to like come down off the intensity or whatever. So hearing what you're saying is beautiful because when you said you need to realize that once you shut it off, that you can stand in the place that you are, like you're strong enough. I feel like oftentimes we are trying to manage our pain. We are trying to just like shove pain away and just not experience it because obviously it's freaking uncomfortable. And yet sometimes pain is really bringing the biggest lesson, the biggest gift, the biggest teaching, the biggest next level, the biggest thing that is actually the most beneficial for our soul. And so I just loved that story. And that analogy at the end was really powerful. So you really got me thinking like, maybe this is the best place I could be. To be in the discomfort, Yeah,
and the pain, sometimes the whole point of that little video is this child way overestimated the pain they would experience if they just stood up. Like they were holding on for dear life on this rope, thinking that they were drowned in that pain. But when you stand up, you realize the pain's not that bad. And so, a great analogy is, lifting weights. At first when you lift weights, it hurts and you equate that with kind of a negative pain, but then any athlete equates a good burn. There's like this exquisite pain, that you realize like there's good pain, and that good pain, that exquisite pain is, the good pain of a good workout, but there's also like, sex can be exquisite pain. If you're into the hard stuff, and then, emotional, there can be like emotional pains that are like, it's just exquisite. It's beautiful. It's like, it's heartbreak even is, there's something so pure and, exquisite about a good heartbreak because you've really deeply loved someone and now you have to let them go. But it's like, but to have never loved them, that's such a loss. That's such a greater loss than to have loved and lost. But then I want to jump into another thing that you reminded me of. You said alpha females, so you're surrounded by these alpha females. Now, one thing that the masculine trait tends to do is remove yourself from emotional pain. So you see like, guys are like stoic, like, we don't cry, we don't show emotion, we don't even feel emotion. And that makes a man somewhat sociopathic when you're cut off from from your emotions.
Yeah.
It also makes you much more functional, makes you much more able to handle battles and wars and hunting and, you know, all the stuff sort of the masculine or that men are typically good at is, you know, what the alpha male is good at is cutting off the emotions, cutting off the feelings, and getting to work on what shit needs to get done. Get from point A to point B. You know, what's the problem that needs to be solved? Let's let's crack that problem open. Let's get that done. And when you're coming from that place, you're not sensitive. And that's why I think traditionally, you know, back in the 50s, men and women didn't really work together very much because men like to be, you know, very direct, straightforward, work on the problem. And in the 50s, women were much more indoctrinated or trained or socialized to be feminine. And if you're very feminine, that makes you very sensitive. And that gives you all sorts of other gifts of femininity that masculinity would just sort of bulldozer in any kind of goal-oriented work environment. Nowadays, with feminism, we've got these alpha females who are basically exhibiting very masculine traits, and they're very effective at working in what used to be a man's world is now a woman's world, an alpha female's world. But what's really weird and interesting is they've done studies that show more masculine women tend to attack and despise more feminine women.
Oh, really?
Yes, that there is an actual, and they even, I think, went as deep as to say that the more women who are more alpha, more masculine, feel envious towards more feminine women and will actually kind of lash out through envy at, it's like, you know, who the fuck are you to be, you know, little Princess Shireen, all like, you know, fairies and femininity, while we're busting our asses here being alpha females, you know? It's like, so it's like there's like, I think there is deep in many women the desire to be the you know, the fairy princess, all feminine and lovely, and not having to worry about all of the sort of work and tribulation of the world. So maybe run with that one. What does that do for you, Shireen?
Well, then I'm just confused. I'm like, wait, you know, because okay, so with that in mind, I'm like, well, maybe I am being attacked. Maybe there is some of that going on. But then at the same time, I know that I obviously have a strong personality. Duh. Like, I'm not like, you know, like that's not happening. And so I've even found myself doing what you just said, like looking at a woman who's maybe more princessy and being like, okay, well, how cute, like whatever, you know, like, meh, I'm not into that. And maybe not respecting them or judging them for having zero desire to do anything outside of the like strictly feminine sort of domestic duties. So I'm confused. That's why I'm confused, because I've felt myself judging in that way before. And yet, you know, I've been judged in that way before, having like a husband and children and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know what I think about that, Garrett. It's just, you just gave me a little mind fuck there.
That's what I'm good at. Mind fucks all day long. But I think it is something to consider. I think as we're all starting, you know, right now society seems to be overrun with gender games and what does gender mean and all of that stuff, and we also have a generation of alpha females that like you said, like they can be very harsh, they can be very cutthroat, and it takes a kind of you know, it's like that when you think of how men became that way, it used to be like, you know, you got beaten up good enough so you learn to be a man, you know, quit your crying, learn to be a man, you know, that's how men were raised in the 50s, and that's how I was raised a bit, you know, but not probably as harsh. And when you're really raised that way, it's like, you get cut off from your emotions, you have sort of this I don't know what to say, this hardness that won't allow itself to be vulnerable because you're just so trained not to be. And then femininity is like ultimate vulnerability. Like femininity is like a very vulnerable when you go to as far down as you can on that spectrum. And I think it elicits from people who resent having to let go of their vulnerability, or they weren't able to stay in touch with that level of femininity. I think it elicits jealousy and fuck this chick, let's see how tough she is, she, of course, so that's
interesting. So we don't have really almost any time left, but I want to check in with you, Ronnie. Are there any good comments? And bye, Tina. This is my girl, Tina. Say hi, Tina. Come back and say hi. This is Miss Tina.
Hey, Tina. Hey, Miss Tina.
Okay, bye, Tina. This is the one. I know this is like the infamous from last week. Hey, Miss Tina. But
no. Well, the only question. Well, I wanted to go off what you guys are talking about a smidge. Yeah, I mean, you had said, Shireen, in your situation that you look at these other girls, these feminine, the roles that are, maybe more necessary, and you're like turned off by them. But yeah, the environment is also on the opposing end. They probably don't give you a receiving nature, in the environment that you're forced to be almost like naturally combative. So I think you are doing the right thing, and I think you just need to be almost surrounded more by those alpha women. It's kind of the only way for that.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, it's true, because it makes it sound like you're talking bad about them, but you're really not. It's just they might not be receiving you because they're looking at you like, why is she this crazy lady who wants to do this, 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 and this? And the reality is you're not crazy, because I know you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie.
The other question we had, a lot of people reacted to the whiskey conversation, Garrett.
Okay.
They loved it or whatever. But one person said that beyond going to sleep, how do you deal with being nervous in professional settings and dealing with people, and that she rides the line between thinking she needs a drink, maybe a drink of whiskey, or being her regular self and not necessarily interacting well just because of her own emotions.
Yeah, so on the topic of self-medicating, you could say like Xanax, which is basically, I think, a shot of whiskey. I would say that anxiety is over self-consciousness. And introversion. So it's like a combination of the two. So if you're introverted and you have to deal with a lot of people, people tend to bulldoze the introverts. The extroverts do. So you're contending with that. So learning to assert yourself helps. Learning not to worry about what people think about you helps. Like just focus on like conveying your message to the other people. And what's going on outside of yourself, as opposed to having like a mirror going on for you. It's like, don't be thinking about how people perceive you so much. Just be you. That's the best I can say, is like, be you. It's granted you don't want to be drinking at work, but I think that's what Xanax was invented for, helping people tie a buzz on at work. I don't take Xanax. I don't know a lot about it. I'm not a doctor, obviously. I'm not suggesting you do take Xanax. Green tea has theanine in it. That can chill you out a bit. That's like a stimulant, but also can kind of chill you out. Exercise. If you do like some, intense exercise, you're going to just be more relaxed for a few hours afterwards. Drink a lot of water. I mean, I'm giving you like all this sort of like hocus pocus. I don't know, what do you call it? Like mom's remedies or whatever. Xanax, mom's remedy. Smoke some dope. I don't know. None of that's, I can't say any of it's great. If you have anxiety though, the root of anxiety is that you're watching yourself, watch yourself. Like you're just kind of in this sort of overly self-conscious mode. And the best way to get out of self-consciousness is to become conscious of other things, like what are the other people doing? What are those people feeling? What are they thinking about? What's going on in my environment? The more you can like focus on that and focus on the goal that's going on, like the less you'll have to worry about what you're doing or how people are perceiving you. And I think the anxiety will go down.
Boom. There you go. You guys, I'm so sorry. We got to jump off today, but next week we're going to go longer. So definitely tune in. Next week, it'll be like an hour or two, maybe. We might get crazy, okay?
Yeah.
So thank you for being with us. Garrett, I appreciate all your thoughts and insight. You always give us some ooey gooey juicy download from the angels and how our souls are like strong and resilient. I really do. This was honestly helpful for me today. So thank you. No, I'm not kidding.
Cool. Good.
And thank you, Ronnie, for helping us, like, make sure we give attention to our peeps and don't get too sort of like schmarity as Garrett does. And we'll see you guys next we'll see you next week. All right.
God bless you all. Bye.